Hey gamers, if you've been looking for co-op roguelike games to play with your friends, then yeah, you've come to the right place. So in this video, I'm gonna show you some of the best co-op roguelikes you should be playing in 2026. And don't confuse why some games like Risk of Rain 2 or Gunfire Reborn not in this list, because honestly, there are other games out there now that can totally take their spot. Alright then, without further ado, let's get started. Rotwood is one of the most fun co-op beat-em-up roguelikes I've been playing lately. In this game, you play as a hunter whose job is to cleanse the world from the rot, a weird purple corruption that turns normal creatures into aggressive monsters. The game gives you a bunch of weapon choices, and every single one feels completely different to play. You can smash enemies into oblivion with a hammer, play safer but still hit hard with a spear, go full range chaos with a bow, or use cannons and turn the whole screen into pure madness. And the best part is every weapon has its own playstyle, so each player can take a different role during co-op runs. But man, the game gets way more fun when you play with 4 players. Rotwood feels absolutely alive with friends. One guy distracts the boss, another clears minions, while the rest are panic dodging and throwing skills everywhere like complete maniacs. It's chaos, but the fun kind of chaos. This one is absolutely worth checking out. Have you ever wanted a new game, checked the price, and instantly changed your mind? Gaming lately has been expensive as hell, so if you still want to play more while spending less, I've got a solution for you, and that is ENEBA. ENEBA is a digital marketplace made for gamers with over 40,000 products. We're talking PC games, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, gift cards, even in-game currency, basically everything in one place. And the best part? Prices are often way cheaper than official stores, plus there are cashback deals that help you save even more. What I also like is they support a lot of different payment methods, so you've got flexibility depending on what you usually use. It just makes everything feel more convenient and safe overall. They also support secure payments and offer 24/7 customer support, so if anything goes wrong, there's always someone available to help you out. So if you're the type who waits for sales, hunts cheaper DLC, or just wants games without overpaying, ENEBA is honestly one of the first places you should check. So what are you waiting for? Go check out ENEBA through the link in the description, grab the best deals, and start playing your games today. And by using my link, you'll not just get awesome deals, but also help support this channel. Alright then, let's get back to the list. If you love Hades, then I've got a recommendation for you, Sworn. Yeah, Windwalk Games clearly took massive inspiration from Hades. The room structure, the boon system, the combat pacing, even the progression flow between runs all feel super similar. The big difference is you can play this chaos with up to 4 players, and somehow the formula still feels insanely good when you're running around with friends. The combat is just as satisfying too. Dodge timing matters, attacks actually feel heavy, and the game punishes people who just spam buttons without thinking. And honestly, that's what makes fights feel so damn good. The boss fights are especially great. A lot of bosses have unique patterns that turn fights into this chaotic puzzle you slowly learn over time instead of just mindlessly attacking everything on screen. But man, good luck if you bring that one skill issue friend with you. Reviving teammates costs either your own max health or the gold you've been saving up the whole run. Annoying as hell, but also kinda hilarious when your friend keeps dying every 2 minutes. The Spell Brigade is a co-op bullet heaven game that's been getting a lot of hype lately, and yup, I can see why. If you're into games like Vampire Survivors, you'll probably click with this immediately. You probably already know the formula. You get swarmed by tons of enemies, and your job is to survive by building the right upgrade combinations and adapting your loadout as things get more chaotic. What makes it more interesting is the co-op feature that supports up to 4 players. Playing with friends adds a whole different layer of chaos and fun. Even better, you can customize your spells, and some characters can actually heal teammates, so you've got proper roles going on. Some players acting as support, others going full damage dealer. Personally, I think the game is way more fun when played with friends. Solo is fine, but the real magic is in co-op, where everything gets messy in a good way. And if you're playing co-op, seriously consider turning off friendly fire. It can get really annoying and ruin the flow if you leave it on. If you're into co-op, roguelites, multiplayer, Ember Knights is easily one of the most fun games to play with your friends. You play as the Ember Knights, trying to save the Prime Worlds from a sorcerer named Praxis. But don't expect some super deep story with endless cutscenes. This Heroes of the Nexus edition already comes bundled with the base game plus the Wrath of the Architect DLC, so there's a pretty solid amount of content here whether you're completely new or already played the game before. And yup, the biggest strength here is definitely the combat. The gameplay is crazy fast-paced, packed with dashing, combos, skill spam, and constant positioning. It has that old-school arcade dungeon crawler vibe, but built entirely around multiplayer chaos, pulling off combo attacks together, reviving your friends while the entire arena turns into a disaster zone, and collectively losing your minds when a boss enters some ridiculous final phase. That's the kind of stuff that makes this game so damn good for late-night sessions with friends. To me, Wizard of Legend is still one of the best roguelike dungeon crawlers out there even today. The gameplay is insanely fast and packed with brutal magic combos. You play as a wizard taking part in the Chaos Trials, basically a brutal challenge to become some legendary badass mage. The coolest part of the game is easily the magic system. There are over 100 arcana spells you can mix and match however you want. Want to make a savage fire build, a ridiculously fast lightning setup, or some chaotic summon spam build? You can do all of it. The combat feels smooth as hell too. Dashing around, spamming skills, chaining elemental combos, everything feels fast and flashy. At first the game feels pretty manageable, but once you start understanding the mechanics, the difficulty cranks up hard. The good thing is the learning curve feels natural. The more you play, the more you start memorizing enemy patterns, dodge timing, and which combos fit your playstyle best. TMNT Splintered Fate is an action roguelite that kind of game casual players can jump into easily, but there's still enough depth for people who love experimenting with builds and grinding runs for hours. And the best part of Splintered Fate is easily the build system and elemental combos. You can mix fire, electricity, water, ooze, and a bunch of other effects to create some absolutely ridiculous combinations during a run. Sometimes you hit that perfect set of upgrades and suddenly your character turns into an absolute murder machine. And in co-op, it gets even better. Builds between players can actually synergize together, which makes the combat feel way more chaotic and satisfying when everything starts exploding all over the screen. That said, the game definitely has some weak spots. The story isn't really something that keeps you hooked, and most people will probably end up skipping the dialogue just to get back into the action. Yeah, I did the exact same thing because when I play a roguelite, I care way more about messing around with friends and destroying enemies together than sitting through story scenes. Kiborg is the kind of game I'd easily recommend if you're into hardcore action roguelike games with heavy combat and that brutal sci-fi cyberpunk vibe. The game throws you into a chaotic prison planet where inmates are forced to slaughter each other for entertainment, and the whole thing feels like a violent reality show completely spiraling out of control. The biggest reason Kiborg works so well is the combat. Every punch, slam, and attack feels heavy as hell. This isn't some brainless arcade beat-em-up where you mash buttons non-stop. The cybernetic upgrade system is where the game gets seriously addicting. During runs, you rip implants off enemies and slowly turn yourself into a ridiculous killing machine with insane builds. The longer you survive, the crazier the combat becomes. And honestly, co-op makes the whole experience even better. Solo can feel exhausting because Kiborg gets brutally aggressive fast, but playing with friends turns that frustration into pure chaos and hilarious panic while the screen fills with explosions, mutants, and complete nonsense. Astral Ascent is one of those underrated co-op roguelites that deserves way more attention if you're into fast-paced action platformers with crazy combos and gorgeous pixel art. The combat already feels chaotic solo, but once you jump in with a friend, the whole screen turns into pure insanity with spells, explosions, dashes, and enemies getting launched everywhere. Each character has a different playstyle too, so co-op actually feels varied instead of just being two players doing the same thing. Movement feels super floaty, but honestly that works in the game's favor because aerial combat becomes a huge part of the gameplay. Most fights turn into complete airborne chaos with non-stop dashing, juggling enemies, and chaining combos together. Visually, the game looks damn good. The backgrounds and spell effects and boss designs all have this stylish anime fantasy vibe that constantly looks cool during runs. And in multiplayer, the screen gets flooded with flashy effects and combo spam in the best possible way. Roboquest is one of those underrated FPS roguelites, especially if you're into insanely fast gameplay. The story itself is pretty easy to follow. You play as a guardian robot brought back online by a scavenger in this brutal post-apocalyptic world filled with killer machines. But let's be real, Roboquest isn't trying to hook players with deep narrative stuff. The whole game is built around aggressive combat, non-stop action, and that addicting roguelite progression loop that keeps dragging you back in for one more run. The co-op side is where this game really shines though. Roboquest's insanely fast movement makes multiplayer feel way more intense and fun than most FPS roguelites out there. That said, the game's biggest weakness is definitely the level design. The environments can start feeling repetitive after a while, and a lot of areas just aren't that memorable visually. It's not a deal breaker because the gameplay still carries the experience hard, but after enough runs, you'll notice the level variety just isn't nearly as strong as the combat or weapon systems. For fans of Roboquest or Gunfire Reborn, Deadzone Rogue feels like a mix of both, but way more addicting. The gameplay is fast combat, flexible builds, loot that constantly makes you think, okay, one more run, and co-op that keeps everything feeling alive all come together into a package that's hard to put down if you're into these kinds of shooters. This isn't the kind of FPS where you sit behind cover like a coward waiting for health regen. The game wants you moving non-stop, dashing around, jumping like a maniac, spamming abilities, and scrambling for positioning while everything on screen is trying to kill you. And honestly, the game becomes way more fun with friends. Honestly, multiplayer is probably what gives Deadzone Rogue its staying power. Playing alone is still fun for a while, but running it with friends turns the whole thing into pure late night just one more run energy. Elden Ring NIGHTREIGN is probably one of the wildest experiments From Software has ever pulled off. Movement is much faster, the overall pacing is way more intense, and the progression system honestly feels like a weird mix of a roguelite, extraction game, and PvE battle royale. You play in a 3-player co-op squad where you're constantly farming gear, leveling up, and hunting upgrades before the map starts closing in from the night's tide. At the end of every day, your team gets forced into a random boss fight before eventually facing the main Night Lord at the end of the expedition. So yeah, this isn't really about slow exploration and wandering around like Elden Ring anymore. It's more about managing your time, optimizing loot routes, and throwing together whatever insane build you can during a run. A lot of fans are definitely gonna hate the genre shift here, and honestly I get why, but personally, this shit is ridiculously fun when you're playing co-op with friends. BlazBlue Entropy Effect X is a game you really should play if you're into insanely fast combat with anime-style fighters that look flashy as hell. Even though it carries the BlazBlue name, this game is way more focused on being a roguelite action game rather than a traditional fighting game. And surprisingly, it works really well. The combat feels extremely responsive, movement is quick, combos flow smoothly, skills look flashy, and juggling enemies in the air feels genuinely satisfying. And once your build starts scaling with traits, inheritance, and different buffs, things can get out of hand fast. You go from a basic setup to a character that basically tears through everything on screen without effort. Playing solo is still fun, but once you jump into multiplayer, everything turns way more aggressive, faster, and packed with ridiculous combo chains all over the screen. And honestly, it gets way more interesting in co-op, because that's where the combat system and build mechanics actually come alive and way more addictive. Shape of Dreams is a highly recommended fast-paced action roguelite with varied build options and smooth, satisfying combat. It offers excellent character variety and intense, just one more run gameplay, with co-op being highly recommended. The moment you jump in with friends, the game turns from a decent action roguelite into something way more alive. Character builds can cover each other's weaknesses, fights get way crazier, and all the nonsense exploding across the screen somehow becomes part of the fun, instead of just visual clutter. It almost feels like playing a tiny MMO party setup inside a fast-paced roguelite. What makes it even more addicting is how deep the progression gets for each character. Co-op doesn't feel like you're just screwing around with friends for laughs. You can actually experiment with different builds every run and feel the difference immediately. And because the combat moves so damn fast, even small synergies between builds instantly make a noticeable impact. Ravenswatch is a top-down action roguelike that challenges players to navigate procedurally generated maps, defeat hordes of enemies, and face impressive bosses known as the Master Nightmares. Each run is limited to a 3-day cycle, which adds a certain pressure to your exploration and decision-making. The combat, it's fast and pretty easy to learn, but if you want to become really good at it, you'll need to spend some time with the cast. What really makes Ravenswatch stand out in co-op isn't just fighting together, it's the non-stop, real-time communication. The map is wide and objective-based, so everyone can easily end up going in different directions. But if the team doesn't stay coordinated, the whole run falls apart fast. So yeah, this isn't that chill, just carry me bro type of co-op. It's more like a small squad that actually has to think together all the time. And that's exactly what makes it feel tense in a good way, but also insanely satisfying when everything finally clicks. Absolum shows up in 2025 as a co-op beat-em-up that immediately feels different, not because it's riding nostalgia, but because it actually reshapes the classic formula with roguelike structure and a more modern co-op design. The gameplay runs on multi-lane combat with fast lane switching, plus guard and parry systems that keep it way beyond mindless button mashing. It's more about reading patterns, timing, and positioning instead of just holding forward and swinging. Co-op is the backbone here. Playing in duos isn't some side feature, it's the whole design language of the game, forcing constant teamwork and awareness. Both players matter equally, so there's no one guy carries, one guy follows nonsense. You'll constantly end up in messy, high-pressure fights, but the game still expects you and your partner to stay synced without needing heavy communication every second. The roguelike layer comes through branching paths, random rewards, and upgrades that can completely shift your build every run. Sometimes it'll annoy you, sure, but honestly, it pays off big when you're running it with a friend. And that's it for today. Those were lists the top 15 co-op roguelike games you should be playing with friends in 2026. Got a hidden gem I didn't mention? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video or discovered a new title to add to your collection, feel free to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you'll never miss future content. Once again, if you want to buy games with cheap price, the link in the description, okay? So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.